Good morning, Chaye Moharan, Resh Samichay. Certain things, we're just going to read through them, even though we don't have a lot of birur on what it means. Menachem said certain things, even Rav Nosson writes, I'm not sure how to explain this. When Resh Samichay, we'll read through it. Pam echad siper zeh, shezeh samuch hitchil lilmod, I'm sorry, we're on Resh Samit Gimel. Bishnat Tav Kuf Samit Gimel. in the year Tav Kuf Samit Gimel, which is about 1800. Shu Rosh Hashanah Rishon Shaya Mikan. The first Rosh Hashanah that Rabbeinu made it to the city of Breslev. As Hayiti Etzlo al Rosh Hashanah that Kol Aseret Yemei Tshuva Ad Acha Yom Kippurim. So Rav Nosson was with Rabbeinu for that whole period until after Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah till Yom Kippur. Acha Yom Kippurim nasati lebeti. Rab Yehuda v'Rab Shmuel Isaac nisharu bikan on Chag Sukkot. Rab Yehuda and Rab Shmuel Isaac, Talmidei Rabbeinu, who stayed with Rabbeinu for Sukkot. Shamati kama diburim yekarim mirab Yehuda mas shama az ve'eni zocha mitev. Rab Nosson writes, and I heard a lot of things, I don't remember them. Why is he writing that? Pam echad b'yom Hoshana Rabbah, and here's something, maybe you'll have a pshat. Mar b'fnei olam, ma'aseh sheshnei rotzchim omdim alai ve'omrim li, ve'omrim af al pi ken shani manhig. What can I do that there's two killers that are around me? And he's talking about Rav Yehuda and Rav Shmuel Isaac. Ve'omrim alai, omdim alai, ve'omrim af al pi ken shani manhig. והרב ידוע על רב יהודה ורב שמואל אייזק בית שמר שן בני רוצחים. היינו שעליהם היה נתכוון. So he's talking about רב שמואל אייזק ורב יהודה. מחמת שהם היו כרוכים אחריו מאוד, they were so around him, they didn't let go of him, and he called them, these are two killers. ומי יזכה להבין, says רב נוסן, מי יזכה להבין פירוש דברים אלו? Who can understand this? We're talking about אנשים צדיקים, רבנים, גדולים, מקובלים, כי אנשים היו עיקריים בינם מאוד. Migdoneh Mikurava. And Rabbeinu is calling him two killers that are always around. I don't know what they're saying.
They're very close to him.
I don't know what to say. You know that Rav Aaron was Rabbeinu's Talmid. Rav Aaron of Breslev was the Rav of Breslev. We spoke about him once. And Rabbeinu once blessed him that after 120 years he will understand this Sichot Chulin Shelo. Not to understand the Torah. You understand the Sichot Chulin. I bless you that after 120 you'll understand the mundane conversations. Then on Simchat Torah, he spoke to them about dancing and clapping. Mash me'apchin et atzmo shezem b'chinat Moshe anan enukim v'yered al Hashem an Har Sinai. Inyan a priest kite שעושים. דיבר עמהם דברים נפלאים. He spoke about dancing and dancing on Simchat Torah. He spoke about this, different פירושים. אחר כך התחיל לקנוס המונם מאנשי העיר שבאו אליו בניגון ושמחה. Then, on Simchat Torah, the people of the city came into Rabbeinu, they were dancing and singing like we do on Rosh Hashanah. כנהוג ביום שמיני עצרת. אז אמר רבי יהודה רבי שמואל אייזק, לכו לכם, כי אני צריך לעסוק עמהם. He told Rabbi Shmuel Isaac and Rabbi Yehuda were the greatest Talmidim, go, I need to take care of them. I need to take care of these, the more simple people. And they left. Then זה שייך לכם, has nothing to do with you. It was known that Rabbeinu certain times would send away the big Talmidim and sit with the Hamonam. He wouldn't let the big Talmidim be there. והלכו עליהם ממנו. ואחר כך נעשה שם שמחה גדולה בקול רעש גדול של שיר ושמחה. Then it was a שמחה, with singing, dancing, ואז רקד רבנו בעצמו הרבה מאוד. רבנו danced on שמחת תורה, מן איזה זמן, קודם הלילה, listen well, he danced from before צאת הכוכבים, עד איזה שעות בתוך הלילה של שמחת תורה. He danced a few hours. כבר ידוע גודל נפלאת הריבוד נימות קדושת הריקוד שלו. If anybody saw, מי שלא ראה, זאת לא ראה טוב מימיו. The way that Rabbeinu would dance, he had a wonderful dance, that if you never saw this dance, you never saw good in your life. כבר במקום אחר, שבאותו שנה רקד רבנו הרבה. Now that year, the first year that Rav Nosson came, Rabbeinu danced a lot. היינו, בשמחת שמיני עצרת. On this night, a few hours. You dance a few hours in Simchat Torah? Few hours, non-stop. Shabbat Chanukah. Shabbat Chanukah, Rabbeinu danced כמעט many hours. בסעודה שישית. אחר שמע התורה ראיתי מנורת זהב. בפורים, he danced a lot. ראש חודש ניסן, he danced a lot. הייתה החתונה של ביתו שרה, ורקד הרבה עם ביתו הכלה בסעודה שישית, בשבת חתונה. So he danced at the wedding, he danced at the סעודה שישית before, he danced with his daughter. אחר אמר התורה הנורא כחתן יוצא מחופתו, he said the Torah meant it. כי בעת אמירת התורה התחיל בקול נפלא מאלו התיבות, והוא כחתן יוצא מחופתו, רק שמסרנו לתורה הזאת בכתב ידנו נגדרים מפוסק השמש שם מועד בהם. So Rabbeinu said, when he said the Torah, he started one way, when he gave it over in written, he gave it another way. Can it pass? אחר אמר התורה, רקד הרבה עם ביתו. After he said the Torah, he danced. אשרי עין רת הזאת. Praise the one who saw this. שמעתי מפיו הקדוש שאמר בעצמו. This we can understand it. Why? בשנה זאת רקדתי הרבה. Rabbeinu told Rav Nosson, this year I danced a lot. That was the year he danced a lot, the most. מחמת שנשמע אז שגורין גזרות punktin on Israel. Because that was the year where they were speaking about maybe implementing certain reforms on the Jewish community, which is called punktin, which means nikudot, means new laws. And that's why he danced. Because dancing and clapping takes away difficulties, takes away judgments, takes away gzerot, decrees, evil decrees. Like we saw in the Torah, ve'ena mishpatim, Likutim 1 Siman Yud. שנאמר לעניין זה כנרשם במקום אחר. So let's explain what this is. In the 1800s, there was a new Tsar, and the Reform, with their foolishness, with their great foolishness, they felt that all the oppression that we had from the Goyim all the years, pogrom and all the problems we had, like we're having today, I don't think it's anything new. Just one rabbi said, somebody asked the rabbi, what's happening all of a sudden? We're having some problems from the Goyim. He said, it's not new. We've had this for 2,000 years. The only thing is, for the last 70 years, they had a big regret because they pushed the limits. So for the last 70 years, they calmed down. Now they're just going back to normal. Esav soneh et Yaakov. Esav hates Yaakov. It's in this week's Parsha V'Yishlach. Yaakov Avinu, Esav kissed Yaakov. That was the one moment where, at that moment, where Hashem put into his mind to love him like a brother. But otherwise, it's a hatred. And so, all the Reform people, they thought that the reason is because we're too different from the Goy. We're so different from the Goy, so if we're more like the Goy, and so they actually pushed agendas to make the communities change, and that forced them out of the Jewish schools, forced them out of the ghettos, make them live in the cities with the Goyim, learn the language of the Goy, and all that was going to be Gzerot on Am Yisrael, that they get not allowed to wear the Jewish clothing, and that was the beginning of the Tzarot of Russia, which was already 200 years ago, which is 200 years ago. That was the beginning of all the problems that we had in Russia, which was probably the worst galut that we ever had. They couldn't get out. In the communist Russia, the Cold War, there was no permission for any religion. But it started then, to the point where what they wanted to do to really get them was called to take the Jewish children into the army. The army service would start at 13 years old. It would be to 35 years old, if I'm not mistaken. 13 to 35 in the Russian army. Now, in order to get the kids at 13, they would take them at 6 or 7 or 8 years old. They would come into cities, they would have quotas of how many children they would have to get, and they would actually snatch kids, walking the street, take them to the houses. It was a terror, and it actually did happen. Rabbeinu saw this about to happen, and all that saw that would eventually happen in Russia because of these things. And Rabbeinu was trying to mevated the gzera. The gzera, he said at this point, he said, I'm doing it myself. If the other tzaddikim would have helped me, I would have taken it away to Gamre. But since they didn't help me, I was able to push it off 25 years. And from this moment, if you look in history, you look it up later, it happened 25 years later after this point. So this was around 1800. It started actually in 1825. The Chavetz Chaim wrote a book for these type of soldiers, Jewish soldiers that were in the army for, imagine, from 6 years old to 35 years old. So we're talking 30 years. 30 years when they come out, you can understand there's no more Judaism whatsoever. Complete like going. And they were able to destroy the whole community. And it was a very terrible time because they would also, the rich people would pay off to snatch. If they took their kid, they would pay off to snatch another kid. And they would trade kids. They would go steal poor kids and put them instead of the rich kids. It was one of the greatest tragedies that we ever had. And it went on, I'm not sure, for 30 or 40, 50 years. You have to check how many years it went on. But it was a long-term thing. It was one of the scariest things that Am Yisrael ever went through. And Rabbeinu was mevatel for 25 years through the dancing and the clapping. Some say that the whole gzera happened. Why did it happen in there so difficult? Because of the machloket on the tzaddik, on Rabbeinu, all the machloket on him, it came out the biggest hastara. Why is it? What is that? What did Hashem do for the Russian Jews? That they had no permission to know anything of Yiddishkeit. It's almost zenu matzeh. Because they had such access to such a great light, and they chose to push it away, so their tikkun is to come back to Torah from such a great obscurity. in such a great darkness and such a great pushback. So that was that some want to say that was the reason why they went through all that, because of the machloket on the tzaddik, all the tzarot that they had. We didn't have those tzarot in different countries because of we didn't have the machloket, because we didn't have the tzaddik by us. Anyways, what we see over here is a great lesson. Sometimes there's difficulties and there's gzerot, and even now we're hearing about them in Montreal. We're hearing about them in this, what they want to make now for the schools, and taking away the kosher and taking away the the funding for the, why? Not because of us, but we're going to be affected. And let me tell you, the other side that they want to, they're really doing it for them, they're not going to be affected. They don't care. They don't care. We are the ones being affected. So it turns out it's a gzera on us. So how do we mevatel the gzera? Through the pashtut, rikudim, v'amchat kaf, dancing and clapping. Dancing and clapping takes away difficulties. If you're having problems, if you're having difficulties, if you're going through a hard time, if things are stuck for you, if it feels like you're being judged, if you feel like nothing will work, so easy solution. Put on music. Back then, to get music, it was not easy. 200 years ago, how are you going to get music? You got to get a klezmer. You got to get a guy who plays music and dance. Or you're going to dance alone, singing to yourself. Today, you get a speaker, you put on your phone, you put music, you can dance. The rest of the Hasidim have to dance every day. So we go around the beam all day, but there's an extra level. Put on music, not to make a joke out of yourself, not to go and make a mockery, but in a private setting, you can turn on the music and dance and dance and dance. It takes away the dinim. When you're finished, translate into a prayer. Whatever you're trying to mivaten, pray for yourself, pray for Ham Yisrael. This is a wonderful thing. I have friends that tell me that it works for them. Just recently, it works. Could imagine could be big problems. Dancing and clapping takes away problems. Chazak u beruchim tiyu.